The movie begins with Royce falling unconscious and fast through the open air. He wakes up just in time to open his parachute right before he falls through the trees of a thick jungle and hits the ground, which knocks him out. Seconds later, he wakes up again to discover he doesn't know where he is or how he got there. At that moment, another man falls next to him. Cuchillo, who is part of a Mexican cartel, aims his weapons at Royce, but before they can react, a third man falls between them. His parachute didn't open, so he died on impact. Suddenly, someone opens fire on them, and Royce moves quickly to dodge the bullets and appear behind the shooter. Nikolai is a Russian commando, and the last thing he remembers is being at war. Royce and Cuchillo had the same experience. They were going through their days when a light shined and knocked them out. Then they appeared in the sky. When they turn around, they find Isabelle, a sniper from the Israel Defense Forces, aiming her weapon at them.
And I've seen most.
She explains she's been to many jungles, but she can't recognize this one, and that she saw more people falling. They agree to leave together to look for the others, unaware that nearby Yakuza member Hanzo is watching them. He tries to follow them, but when his shoes touch the mud, Hanzo decides to take them off. The group goes deeper into the jungle and finds two men in the middle of a fight death row, inmate stands, and Mombasa, a rebel from a South African organization. The men end their fight when they see the others and agree to stick together because there's strength in numbers. Then Stans mentions some guy on a tree. This is Dr. Edwin, whose parachute got stuck in a branch. Royce rescues him by shooting the branch and making him fall into a lake. Then Edwin shares the same story as everyone else, with no idea of where they are or what's going on. As the group keeps moving, eventually they find Hanzo in the mud, but he isn't stuck. He's frozen because he's found a strange totem with lots of bones underneath. Mombasa comments that some hunter must be taking trophies, and that in his culture, the warrior with the best trophies gets the most respect. Nikolai thinks this is some kind of test, but Isabelle disagrees because not all of them are military. Cuchillo thinks it's a ransom, Stan says it's an experiment, and then suddenly they're wondering if they're dead, and this is hell. Royce shuts them all up and says the reason doesn't matter. What they need is to find a way to escape. The group follows Royce, and as they cross the jungle, Nikolai wants to touch a pretty flower. However, Edwin stops him, explaining it's poisonous and would cause total paralysis. Nikolai is grateful and promises to protect Edwin in the future. After advancing some more, Isabelle asks Royce to slow down and shows him something. She makes an improvised compass and puts it on the water, but it won't stop going in circles. In return, Royce points out that the sun hasn't moved since they arrived, so moving around will be hard. He also tells Isabelle that since they're all dangerous fighters plus a doctor, his theory is that they were carefully chosen. Isabelle guesses Royce used to be a soldier before he became a mercenary, but he refuses to say more. After more walking, the group comes across a cage and carefully removes the sheet that covers it, only to find it empty. It seems the cage was dropped, just like them, and the bloodstains indicate some kind of creature was in it. When they look up, they find a bunch of fallen cages stuck on the trees, meaning they'll be having lots of company. Then the group keeps going, and suddenly, Mombasa trips on a branch, accidentally triggering a trap. Soon, a bunch of things are trying to kill them. A huge swinging tree trunk, a bunch of falling wood stakes, and even a huge bear trap, but they dodge them all. Isabelle runs and falls into a hole, managing to survive by holding on to the edge. Royce runs to her and saves her right before she falls. Then Isabelle uses the scope on her weapon to find the person behind the traps, only to discover he's already dead. Judging the decomposition, Edwin mentions the guy has been dead for 2 weeks, and Nikolai checks the pockets to discover he used to be a USA Special Forces soldier. Royce realizes the traps weren't for them, but for whatever killed the guy, which he believes to be much bigger than them because of the trap's position. As they start moving again, Mombasa thinks there's something among the trees, but decides to ignore it. However, he isn't wrong. Someone is watching them with infrared technology and repeating anything they say. Moments later, They manage to reach the edge of the jungle and look up at the sky, only to receive a huge shock. A bunch of weird planets and stars indicate that they're not on Earth. Royce decides they must find who put them here to ask them to send them back. The group re-enters the jungle, and suddenly, a drone quickly flies near the heads. Freaking stands out. He complains about his lack of guns and threatens Mombasa for one, but before they can start another fight, they hear growling coming from the jungle. At that moment, a horrible beast appears running toward them, and the group immediately opens fire. The beast is quickly killed, but there's a bunch more of its kind coming. Since they have no guns, Edwin and Stans begin running away. A monster comes after Edwin as he trips, but Isabelle kills it with a perfect shot. While Nikolai and Hanzo shoot down another beast, Royce kills one by using just his knife. Stans is jumped on by a monster too, and tries his best to defend himself with a knife. Luckily, Mombasa arrives and kills the creature with a few shots. Edwin climbs a tree, while Isabelle is cornered by a beast, and she considers self-deleting. But at that moment, a whistle can be heard deep in the jungle, and all the beasts suddenly run away. Afterward, the group reunites and reaches a simple conclusion: they're being hunted. Those creatures were hunting dogs, testing the enemy, and the whistle called them back. The planet is a huge hunting ground, and all the beings that are brought in the cages serve as the prey. Suddenly, Mombasa notices someone is missing, and they hear Cuchillo's voice calling for help among the trees. The group follows the noise and finds Cuchillo on his knees because of severe injuries, so Isabelle tries to come closer to help him. However, Royce stops her and says it's a trap, proving it by throwing a stone. Stans points out there's nothing they can do for him, and the other guys agree, ignoring Isabelle's protests. As the men leave, Isabelle decides to end Cuchillo's suffering and shoots him. However, she can hear him asking for help again. Isabelle runs away as it's revealed that Cuchillo had been dead all along, and the voice had been a recording used by the hunter in the shadows, who is watching now too. The group keeps walking for a while, and Royce analyzes the few clues he has to guess how the enemy behaves. This hunter wants them to run, so Royce thinks they should follow the dog tracks and get to the hunter first. Moments later, the group finds a camp and is disgusted by the creepy sight. The bodies of various different races are hanging on stakes, and the ground is covered with the remains of various creatures, confirming that not only humans are brought to this planet as prey. At the back of the camp, they're shocked to find a huge, ugly creature tied to a stake known as a predator. While Royce notices that Isabelle is having a weird reaction to it, Nikolai comes closer and pokes the alien with his weapon, only for the creature to roar at them because it's actually alive. Isabelle says they should leave immediately, but Edwin notices Royce is gone. Suddenly, a bunch of spears pop out and kill Mombasa, causing Royce to rush out from the shadows and start firing wildly. The other guys help him, and such a huge wave of bullets reveals that the hunter is also a predator using a cloaking device. The group begins running away as the predator shoots at them with lasers, causing explosions and flames all over the place. As they escape, the group ends up rolling down a hill and that's when everything changed. But that's just the beginning. Things are about to get even crazier in part 2. You don't want to miss it, so hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Be the first to see it. I'll see you there.
Oh!